Elizabeth Lide's Artist Talk. Elizabeth is one of our Working Artist Project winners, a program that is funded by the Charles Loridans Foundation and the NEA with some help from binders. She was selected from a number of applicants by Saisha Grayson, a curator from the Brooklyn Museum, to be one of our 3 winners this year. And we selected her to work on new artwork for a year and then present a solo exhibition, which is what you see now. So Elizabeth has a BFA from UGA and an MFA from Georgia State. She showed her work around the country and the world in numerous solo and group exhibitions. She's been awarded many fellowships from Cambridge here to one in Ireland and Italy. And I'm excited to hear what she has to say today. So without further ado, welcome Elizabeth.
Is this on?
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming. If this is too loud or too soft, let me know. Okay. Well, before I start about the work itself, I want to thank Jess and Eric and who else is here? I know. So Emily, and I think Emily may be out at the desk. But anyway, and also Paige Mancuso and Nancy Boyd were both helpers for me over the past year, and I couldn't have done all this without them. I also wanted to just mention, she's not here, but it was a major part of installing this. A dear friend who now lives in Bangkok came over and for a week to help me install. So actually we had a fabulous 2 weeks there. Paul Cahart, who, I don't know where he is, yes, really helped me during the whole process of making this work and with the installation. For people who've never been in this space before, this room is usually not here, the room within the gallery. So that was a really important thing to me from the very, very beginning of my ideas about what I was going to do here. Eric and Paul built this. And Paige and I painted, and Nancy, anyway, we all jumped in and got everything done. But usually this is a big open gallery space. Because of what I thought for a year and a half would be the title, and I kept stepping back from that thinking, no, it's too loaded. Putting the house in order is a very loaded reference to get your paperwork in order. You're going to die soon. I mean, I know that a lot of you know what that means. It made me really nervous. And that's not what is happening, but that kept coming back to me as really the perfect title for this show. And this has to do with the organization of space, of how I live in my house, how we all live in our homes, what we decide to keep and what we live with, what we want to get rid of. So there are all kinds of references within that title. So the seed of this project actually started in the summer of 2013. And Paul, who's back there, Paul Cahart and I were doing a residency at the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts, VCCA. And our daughter had gone to China with a group of kids from her high school. We put her on the plane. We came home. We had one day to pack up materials to drive to Virginia. And I had no idea. I was teaching at the time during the year, and I was not being very productive in the studio. So these residencies, even though they were 2 or 3 weeks long, were really precious. So I collected materials, and I go to Virginia. I had no idea what I was going to do there. And I actually like to work that way. I like to go into a place, maybe even without materials, and have to figure it out. But as I was packing, I recognized that I was attracted to old materials. Old pieces of fabric, threads I'd had probably for 30 years that were from the Artist Resource Center. I'm sure a lot of you, yeah, there used to be an organization really that was in the old Sears building, and people would donate from businesses or individuals furniture and bolts of fabric, whatever they had. And if you were an artist, you could register and just go take whatever you could use. So I still am working with some of that. You are too. Yeah. So I got this idea in my head that something was brewing about being attracted to the old fabrics, the old papers. And I took them with me and started playing around in the studio. Not really, I didn't know what I was doing yet. And I would put things up and take them down. And one of the pieces of papers that I took were 25 of those bronze papers. There are 180 on the wall now, but I only took 25. They belong to a very close friend of mine, Mary Margaret Wade, who some of you knew. She lived here for about 10 years, and at that point after she lived here, she moved to Durham, North Carolina. And I had known her for 50 years, so we were very close friends. But Mary Margaret died in 2007. And she had asked me to take care of all of her artwork. So I spent 3 weeks at her house after she died, and part of what I found were 2 boxes of those papers. And part of what I was doing was archiving all of her letters, all of her oddities. She used to work at Nexus Press, by the way, so she knew about making books. But the library, the women's library, the Sally Bingham Library at Duke wanted all of her papers, letters, everything she had. So that actually gave me a great framework, and I felt like after losing her, it gave me something that was constructive. So in going through everything, I found these papers. And I just brought a box of them home. Some of them went to the library, some went to other friends. And so at that residency one day, I took my breakfast dishes into the kitchen. And the person who was working in the kitchen, just out of the blue, said to me, "What are you working on here?" And I was really taken aback, because that's not really a normal question that staff is to ask the people who are in residence. And so I thought, oh dear, I don't know what I'm doing. What am I going to tell somebody else? But I had been stitching. I'd already started the stitchery pieces. And I said, well, I'm doing stitchery, thinking that would be it, and I could leave and go to my studio. And she said, well, I helped make a quilt that's in the Children's Hospital at Duke. And I remember kind of physically stepping back, because I knew I was going to be in that kitchen for a while. She said, I said, well, why were you at Duke? And she said, well, my son had a brain tumor, and Duke was the hospital that said they could help him. And so I used to take him there. And I said, and you stayed for 2 or 3 months at a time? And she said, yes. So I said, well, I had a very dear friend who worked with children in that hospital doing art. Her name was Mary Margaret Wade. So there was it was an amazing connection. And she said she worked with my son. So she ended up knocking on my door in my studio one day and looking, and was very taken with the texture of this paper. We're going to walk around this room, by the way, so we'll get down there. But I just kind of wanted to give you the beginning of how this project started. And she also brought her son right before we were leaving. And he's blind, and he was led over to the paper. And Mary Margaret had worked with him on the pleasures of touch and of texture. So that happened there, and then in the very beginning, I was only there for 2.5 weeks, but at an artist colony, that's amazing what you can get done. There's a library at the artist colony that has books and recordings by people who've been in residence there, writers and composers. So I went up and I checked out a few books. And I got books from Ha Jin, who had been a fellow there. And I went back to my studio, and I'd already started stitching and working with old papers. This is something that I'd started working on. And was thumbing through a book of his poetry and found this poem, The Past. And I went, oh my God. I said, this is exactly what I'm doing. So I held on to that poem, and actually I was able to get permission through the people at VCCA. They forwarded my messages, my emails to him, and he immediately gave me permission to use his poem. So if you haven't read it, please do. This piece was done actually, this was a core piece from 2013. And all of the fabric, I didn't want to wash it, although I did wash the really old and worn and tattered, it's a summer blanket. I did have to wash that, but everything else, I wanted the folds left and everything. The baby clothes, I did not want to wash and clean. I wanted them, they just came out of the box, how they had been stored. So my father was an only child, and his mother, I think, kept everything he ever touched. Or that's how my mother felt anyway, because then she had to become the keeper of all those boxes of things. And what has been about this project, and I think I've always known this, but was really confronted with it, a lot of the things I really kept were not things of value, monetary value, or things that you would normally consider heirlooms, but things that triggered memories for me. And I haven't analyzed every single thing or every memory, but when I was trying to decide what to put in the cases, I know those things are strange. A lot of them were my father's. He was a pathologist, so he was very analytical. Both my parents grew up in the Depression, so they're very practical, and they kept things, they took care of things, so that has a lot to do with what's in the cases. And there's, of course, this story about everything in here, which I won't go into, but what I want to do is walk around the room with everybody And if you have questions, I guess it's better if you ask them while we're actually there rather than coming back for questions. But the poem, the space was designed so that if you walk in, I still consider this the front, that this poem is really right in the middle of the entry, the curtains. So I expected that people would actually be drawn to this initially. So after going through, let's see, 2014, I had been teaching for many years and doing graphic design, and my daughter went to college, and I decided I wanted to also graduate from high school. And so I stopped teaching and was able to go in my studio and really organize it and clean it up. And it really reminded me of what I had done years ago. I went through all my files, all my artwork, anything that had ever been written about the work, and it was very obvious that there was this connecting thread that went way, way, way back, and it's very similar to how I'm still thinking. So that was a very healthy thing to do. And then when this fellowship happened, that gave me the direction to actually develop what I started in 2013. So this is connected to the show and to what I just said about I'm thinking like I used to. So I'm going to bring it up quickly, but it's not in the show. But many years ago, I did an artist book about the library Mary Handage. And yeah, it's right here if afterwards you want to look. But this is a study of who Mary Handage was based on what books she chose to have around her. So I realized that in this show, I was doing that with my own belongings and myself. So I find it, thank you. I find it really interesting what people keep, what they don't keep, what is in your house, what's not in your house. I think it's a real reflection of us. Anyway, so this was sort of trying to figure out a part of that. I don't know that I want to figure it all out. But anyway, does anybody have a question before we start moving? Okay, so when I started working, I ordered a lot of paper from an art supply company in New York, which just sadly went out of business last year. And they had an amazing supply of papers from all over the world. So I ordered they're all handmade papers, mainly from Asian countries. And I was really attracted to these thin, fragile papers. These are from Thailand. And the paper pulp in here, the paper pulp is over there in the pots. There's paper pulp in display cases. And this is paper pulp that has actually been painted onto the paper, which pulls it and makes it very much, it looks to me like stitchery. So anyway, I started out doing drawings on smaller paper, the 3 that are the smallest drawings. I really started drawing as a way to try to focus and figure out what I was going to do with this installation, thinking that I would not really keep drawing. And I had such a good time making drawings, I just kept drawing and drawing, and have a lot of drawings that didn't end up in this show, I just didn't have room. So a lot of the drawings, the early ones are really more house-like, and they're unrealistic, but they're architectural in the way they look. So after that, I started basically breaking up space. So there are a lot of grids that are imposed on the paper. I kind of see what I put in the grids as they're like little drawers in a way to me, or they're places for color samples. That color might suggest something that is really much larger than a pink square. That may have connotations that, you know, I may not tell you what they are, but it is basically breaking up the space and using color. A lot of it was influenced from the film. But those are 16 millimeter films that my father took from the late 40s to the late 50s. So that's a floor piece from Mexico. There are a lot of influences on what I chose to record. These drawings here are some of the early. Those were some of the three that I did in the very beginning of the project, which are architectural, but they're not. They're unrealistically architectural.
These, where you put the post creates a...
It's wet.
You foresaw or...
Well, the paper pulp is wet. Yeah, no, it's the grid is
It's right in the middle
gone.
of each square.
Right.
Looks like a mattress. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And one thing I do, I put the grids down, and it happens in those drawings on the other side also. I'll do a grid, but then I'll make it really hard for myself. I don't want to do checker. I don't want to do something that is obvious that you would anticipate. And it's something I have to do for myself. So some of these took a really long time to figure out what was going to go where and whether some of them would be left without anything in them. Yeah.
Drawings. Here it becomes more like drawings of fabric as it goes on. Was that something that came from the result of working with the fabric or working with the wedges and directing the
Of the paper.
If you go along, they become, the edges become less rigid, they become more like fabric. Like quilts.
Yeah. Well, I had used this on paper several years ago, not this large at all. I did a series with one little piece in the middle, and that's how I figured out it was actually going to make it look like paper and stitchery and how it would react against the paper. But no, I've never done anything this large with that. So I think there is a real connection with the paper drawings and the clothing. So, yeah, that's a good point. Some of the stitchery was done at the same time I was making some of the drawings. So I'll point that out, but some of these drawings that started at BCCA, this one around the corner I took and finished at Handage. And then there's a piece of stitchery that was done at the same time. If you put them side by side, it's like, yes, they're very connected. These papers were from a paper sample book that was from Fabriano Paper Mill in Italy. That when I went on that Cortona program in 1977, we went to the paper mill and they gave all the students sample book. Well, the paper is gorgeous. I couldn't throw it away. I didn't know what to do with it. So it's one of those things I've held on to, waiting for a perfect moment to actually do And so this is what came out of that decision to go ahead and paint on it. The clothes over here, all of these are my father's baby clothes. And there was somebody who was in the gallery one day. I've been coming up here and staying about 2 or 3 hours once a week. And I came in one day and she told me that this fabric was probably from Switzerland. It's called lawn, Swiss lawn. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but those clothes would be over 100 years old, because my father was born in 1912.
So these are kind of like found out.
No, well, these are my father's baby clothes. So everything in here was given to me. I didn't go out looking for anything. Was either left by grandparents, great-grandparents, parents, friends. So it's all things that I have. And actually I bought the papers from New York Art Supply, but most everything else actually I had, and just actually decided to see it as something that could be used.
They're ready-made?
Those? I don't know if I would call them ready-mades, actually.
I always thought that there was a Duchampian thing to what you do.
Yeah, I think there is too, thank you. Yeah. I've always liked ready-mades, but I don't know if I would call those, be in that category or not.
So it seems like the thing that links all of these things together is the materiality, which is really kind of lush and you want to get close and sort of feel it. But a lot of it is personal and nostalgic and historical. But then you also have this abstraction where you're talking about the circle and infinity, and in the drawings there's all this geometry, right? It's minimalist but geometric. How do you think of that? I mean, that's a pretty wide dichotomy between the abstract and geometric and conceptual, and then the personal and, I don't know, nostalgic. I mean, it's not a ready-made because it had to be looked at, right? And it has all of this historical value, but the texture of that is equally as cool as the texture of the clothes.
I think, that's a great question, but I think that's part of what I was trying to figure out by using materials that I already have and looking at them in a way of how arrangement is so important in the presentation that it can become something that was never intended to be. Like if it's in a clean white space, it becomes something else, and if it's in your house in a closet. And I think the circles, for me, connected a lot of these objects and papers. That fabric has the gray circles. There's an S that's stitched on all of those strips of fabric. And the S has to do with my finding in my studio at AECCA. There was a little tiny S that somebody had etched on the glass. And for a long time, I thought it looked like eggs, insect eggs, had been laid outside because it was little dots. It was about that big. And then one day I rubbed my finger against it and realized it had been etched. So I stitched each one as a different kind of white or off-white thread as a recording of when I made that. So the viewer doesn't have to know that, but it's important to me to make some sort of mark that when I look at that, the memories of that residency come flooding back at me. So that is a very conceptual thing that I like to do. But the circles are there, they're here, they're obviously here, they're throughout the whole show. And they have a lot of meaning for me too, as being very meditative to make. Like when I knew that I was going to have to paint 10 of these at one time, I would really look forward to it because it's a calming focus, instant gratification. I've gotten that one done and stacked them up. And it's also a portal. I think of circles as being able, you can look through them, you can look past things, you can go far back or not so far back. You know, there could be someone looking at us this way from them. I think I'll ramble. I don't think I answered your question.
Well, you're saying that really what looks abstract actually is personal, and sometimes it's actually recording
Yes.
your own experience or your own memory
Right.
experience.
And I think very conceptually anyway.
Right, but what's personal is abstract here too.
Yes. Yes. And, you know, I think to look at this wall is fairly dramatic to see 180 pieces of paper, but for me, it brings back all these memories of the person who actually made those the first go around. And what she did is, I really think, knowing Mary Margaret, I was not around, she was in Durham at that point when she did this. I suspect that it's brown wrapping paper, that really heavy craft paper on those big rolls, you know, that you can pull out. And just knowing her, that's probably what she used. Something pretty inexpensive. And it looks to me like she crumpled them and then weighted them to smooth them out. And as I said, she was a bookmaker, so she knew how to do things like that. And then I remember that she said they were hung on clotheslines, so she spray painted the front and back, and it's over and over and over and over. There are layers of paint on these things. And I had tried to do a lot of different things with the paper. I stitched into them, I painted on them, and nothing worked. I came back, the only mark that I felt comfortable making on her papers was this circle. I thought her papers were the most important thing, but the circle pulls them together too.
So is that gray the same color gray in every case?
Yes.
It's interesting because they
Yeah. It's actually gesso. It's gray gesso. I love to use tinted gessos because you can have the same color over and over again. Because you know you can never mix the same color again. So I knew I was going to be making even 25 of them. I wouldn't be able to have the same color if I had mixed it myself. This studio jacket belonged to a really good friend of mine, Harriet Oliver Forbes. And I don't know if there's anybody here who ever knew Harriet, but she grew up, oh that's right, Louise did that. She grew up in Atlanta, and then she was older than my mother, just to kind of give you some framework. She lived in New York for many, many years. She was an artist. I have drawings of hers that I suspect she did in the Cedar Bar in New York, of all these famous artists. And Harriet and her husband started going to Greece. They went on a trip from New York to Greece, fell in love with it, came back to New York, and started taking Greek lessons. So she spoke and wrote Greek. And this was her studio coat that she had made for her in Greece. There's a tag in it. She gave it to me. So I've had it for years hanging in the closet. It's so beautiful. I mean, I can't throw that away. These are the stitchery pieces, and I have a lot more, but a lot of these, this one is the one I was talking about that was done at the same time as this drawing. So there's a connection with a lot of the stitchery in the drawings. This is the same thing. This might be what we're talking about. The stitchery started taking on that architectural look of some of the drawings. Of a
Mary Margaret.
So this is what it looks like. So any color was painted on to these, and I started cutting them. And for whatever reason, I cut them in 9 by 9 inch squares and started working on them. And then I had this idea that they were beginning to look like pot holders. But part of me really liked that they were something that were small. They are small and intimate. They're too big to be pot holders, really. But they had that sort of personal connotation. So I started making them a little bit larger. And I like to use things that are really mundane anyway. I'm attracted to those kinds of objects and trying to use them in a way that is not intended. Any questions from here?
Do you ever wear the coat?
It fits me, but no. Somehow I feel like I should not wear that coat. So Harriet used to go to the soup kitchen at St. Luke's Episcopal Church every Wednesday for years and years. And she would draw the people who came there to eat lunch in the soup kitchen. And she had a Polaroid camera. She would take a photograph of her drawing, which she did on large sheets of newsprint, and give the guest her Polaroid, and she would keep the big drawings. And she had a lot of shows. She had a show at Nexus, floor-to-ceiling drawings of these portraits. They're really wonderful drawings.
What happened?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, she had asked me to take care of all her drawings. Thousands of drawings and paintings, and a lot of them were Greeks and mythological figures. And a month before she died, her lawyer changed the will, so he was responsible for her artwork. I'm highly suspicious. The law, it's a long story, but the law, he never settled the will. And his brother came to try to get his affairs in order because he had gotten sick. And this law firm got involved, discovered he hadn't settled Harriet's will. So they called me, and they had donated all of her drawings to St. Luke's. What St. Luke's did with them, I don't know. I called and tried to talk to somebody, and I never could.
They were wonderful.
They were. She had a whole list of people who she wanted to have her artwork, and that never happened. It's really sad. But Eric Forbes, yeah. So anyway, I was at Nexus when Harriet's show was there many years ago, and Michael Stipe and someone else came in and told Harriet, I really like your work, I'm going to buy a piece, and they laughed, and she turned to me, she said, I'm so tired of people telling me they're going to buy my work, and they don't. And he was going into the office to buy her piece, so they got to be really good friends. And she never did figure out that he couldn't just come see her every other week. So She wanted to sit in my garden for her birthday one year, and we went out and bought some music, REM, and sat down in the backyard. She goes, I don't like that music. But she loved him. So, this is the last drawing I did that ended up in the show. This is the one I started in Virginia and ended up finishing at Hambridge. I think maybe we should go around and then we'll come back in here. But just looking at this, I think we'll get off on it. But from here, the connection, I wanted to have this film so that you could see it. You could view it from all over the gallery. And I saw that really to give you some reference, not really that you would watch a 57-minute movie. But I think it's really mesmerizing. I've discovered that people really do want to watch a lot of it. The bed jackets that are here that sort of influenced a lot of the color palette in here were my Aunt Ola's. And she was a cousin of my grandmother, and I never knew her other than being in bed. She broke her hip, and at that time there was nothing you could do. You just went to bed and you stayed there. So we would go visit Aunt Ola, and she had sheets that same color with big panels of lace. And they had attached rings to the ceiling, and they were covered in black rubber. She pulled herself up. Her arms must have been really, really strong. So that she could sit up in bed and visit. So those were Aunt Ola's. And split up right here. I think there's an obvious visual connection with that. So let's move over this way and then we can come back. So this is a record player that my father built. And it had his battery operated, and he would take it outside to track birds in our yard. And so Paul, wherever he is, this looks exactly like it did when my father used it. I'm going to open it so we don't hear it. So the sound you hear now is actually a sound composition that Paul made that's based on bird sounds. But Paul had to gut this thing. He took everything, it looks exactly the same, but the inside had completely changed. And he figured out a way so it didn't have to stay on the gallery all the time. So he closed it. Stop. So if you want to play with it, you're welcome to.
Another circle.
Pardon?
Another circle.
Yeah. Yes.
Which way are you going?
Well, I don't know if we need to talk about every piece, but I will mention these two. This is a drawing of one of the stitchery pieces. It's over on that platform or on the other side of the room. So there was some play of connecting all of these. And this is the only piece of the show that has a name, and it's called Thinking of Annie Albers, based on the color that I was using. That is a dresser scarf.
What is that?
Well, there used to be dressers, and they had little benches that you would pull up, and there were mirrors, and you would put your powder and your rouge and all that. And they would cover them with these kinds of fancy scarves. And I have 3 of them, but 3 was too much, so I decided just to use 1. But as you can see, I left all the stains and the folds and the, yeah. I actually like these they're staying in here.
It looks like a coat.
I thought it was,
Oh, it's, yeah.
I thought it was like,
Yeah.
that or like butt, I don't know, something.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Say it again. What did you say? What did I say?
They're repeating.
Oh. I just thought it was butt, sweat or something. Yeah, you didn't want to hear it.
It does seem bodily.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
these three grid drawings are ones in particular I was mentioning that I put myself in a very difficult position of trying to figure out how to use the grids. So it's not obvious. It's not 1, 2, circle, 1, 2, circle, or anything like that. But I had to make it work from a real design viewpoint and a balance viewpoint. And then, of course, beyond that, there's a lot more going on. But I really like to set up problems for myself like that. It's my design background, because
How do you paint with pulp? What do you do?
well, those over there, I put on with, I think I used the end of a paintbrush or a toothpick or something. And each one of those shapes is for any of the architectural templates for a shrubbery. So there are two different templates I use, one on one drawing and one on the other. And I drew all those out first and then applied the paper pulp within those and then pushed it in so it held that shape that I wanted.
But the paper pulp that's coming from what? Just
The paper pulp is, there are all different kinds of paper pulp, and I buy it, and then you just add water.
Oh, wow.
But I've tried about 5 different kinds of paper pulp, and a lot of the pots are paper pulp. So they're, that paper pulp is like the paper pulp in one of the display cases. I didn't like the way it worked on the pot, so I kept trying different kinds of pulp and came up with something I liked a lot better. But I got all of it at Binders. So some of the shapes in here were made with objects that are in the display cases, so there's a connection with that going on. And the film really influenced my use of blue. I edited that film last April at another residency, and it was originally 2.5 hours long, which was way too long. It was very emotional to go through that. I had not looked at it in many years because my father had it converted, had a 60mm converted to VHS, and he gave each child one for Christmas many years ago. And he died in 1993, so I just had the VHS, and last fall I had it converted to digital. And I would work on it, and I'd get wiped out, and I'd have to come back. So, you know, every Christmas tree looks the same year after year. So I didn't want it to be too redundant, but I wanted it to have a rhythm so that it came back to that periodically. So that's my sister. So I know all the stories behind this, of course. Well, not all of them, actually. One thing that happened while I started was in blue is I became aware by looking at these old movies that my mother never dressed us in pink. I was never in pink in any of these, and my sister wasn't either. And she always dressed us in blue. And I've never really worn blue. I'm not, I think it's an old high school that navy blue that everybody wore when I was in high school. I couldn't stand it. So, but looking at these made me really have a new appreciation for it.
Is it mainly in South Carolina?
This was in North Carolina. Our cousin, it's Harper's Island. It's near the Outer Banks. We had cousins who had a little house there, and we used to go stay with them. But there's a house that shows up here a lot that was my grandmother's house in South Carolina, and that's where we had Easter egg hunts, and a lot of the older people that you see in here who didn't realize that they were being filmed, coming out adjusting their slip straps and everything, waiting for the still picture to be taken. So I guess that camera was really new and they didn't know that, so they were caught off guard, but I love that. That I looked it up, and it's a preserve in North Carolina somewhere. Charleston. Near where? A hospital. Oh. Charles is from Charlotte. I grew up in Winston-Salem, so. Uh-oh. What happened?
I think it's redeeming.
Oh. All right. So the last thing to talk about, unless you have a question, are these pots. And all of these objects I made from molds. Is Dana, I think I saw Dana Howard made rubber molds from 6 objects that we lived with that were passed down to me by grandparents or great-grandparents. And I chose 6 of them. I had many more, but we sort of looked at them as what would work for what I wanted to make. And I had never really worked with plaster before. I played around with paper pulp, but not in something that large. So there are 5 represented here, and then I had those vases were originally a cut glass vase, which I still have, but that's aluminum. So I took that mold down to Union City. There's a foundry there, Inferno Art Foundry. And they had to make another, well, they actually had, every time they poured one, they had to make a new mold. So I have the rubber mold back, but they have to use a lost wax mold. So they had my rubber mold for about 4 months before I got those back. So I actually want to use that mold to try and work with the materials on my own. So there are vases and tankers and ice glass. Some of these are glass in their original form. And the hair is my daughter's. When she had all the red cut out of her hair last year. So there are 2 different, some of these were from my mother's side of the family and the majority from my father's, because his family was the one who kept everything. My other grandparents were not collectors that way at all. They actually traveled and read all the time and had 5 children, so it's a very different, my parents had very different childhoods. So here, these are my 2 great aunts. The one on the left taught the 2nd grade for 50 years. And when we would
is a lot of this is like curating work, stuff that is from your family or that is from friends. Some of it's interacting with material that you have from friends and your own relationship. This is all made based on stuff that is in the family. But like the show is a mix of pieces that you made that are artworks and pieces that, like the coat that you're not going to wear and it's from a friend. And how do you, I mean, it's actually unusual to do that in a show in Atlanta and in MOCA. How do you think about it? I mean, it's an installation. Do you think of these as individually as pieces of art? Do you think of the whole thing here as a piece of art? Do you think of it as simply that somewhere in between the made, kind of sellable pieces and then the artifacts from your friends that are obviously not?
Well, what is interesting, and I think this is connected with what you're asking. When I came in one day, there was a woman in here who knows art, and we were walking around. I'd never met her before. But I realized as we were walking around the space that I was much more interested in talking about the objects that had been left to me than talking to her about the art. That there was something really meaningful. I guess I don't know why that is, but I was aware of that by the end of the conversation. We kept going from object to object. And I think part of it is she knew a lot about these objects. She's older than I am. And so she had a lot of experience with some similar materials. But these, as far as being singularly pieces of art or a whole, making up one piece of art, was that one of the questions? Well, I see them as individual, but I also think that I wanted to present them as if they are on a shelf or in a cupboard, stuff all your stuff in a cupboard, and sometimes you pay attention to how it's arranged, and sometimes you just want to get it in there. So that was part of my thinking about the presentation of these objects. That maybe together they're stronger, I don't know, I've never shown them by themselves. But since they are household objects, I wanted to present them as if they were on a shelf in my house. Of course, I don't have a shelf that long in my house, but are there any other questions?
It's a beautiful show.
Thank you.